Welcome to Unsolved Darkness. Picture yourself on the open ocean, the sun going down behind the water, a sound of waves beneath you, a drink in your hand and nowhere you need to be. A cruise is supposed to be the perfect escape, thousands of miles from your problems, surrounded by strangers who are all there for the same reason, to relax, to forget, to feel safe. But the ocean does not care about your plans, and the strangers around you are still strangers. You do not know who is watching you from across the bar. You do not know who picked up the phone you left on the counter. You do not know who made that drink and what they put inside it. You only find out later, sometimes much later. And by then, it is already too late. These are 3 true stories from 3 people who boarded a cruise expecting a vacation. What they got instead will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And after tonight, it might stay with you too. Story 1. The man who followed me across Greece. My name is Shelby. 8 years ago, I lost my husband Antonio in a motorcycle accident. He was the best thing that ever happened to me. And one of my greatest regrets is that I never took the trip to Greece that he always wanted to take. Every summer we talked about going. Every summer something came up. After he died, the idea of going without him felt wrong for a long time. But in the spring of 2018, I finally decided to do it. Not for myself exactly, for him. I was 36 years old, no children, and the thought of traveling completely alone felt like too much, so I booked a cruise instead, several stops across Greece. Athens, Santorini, Mykonos, Volos, Thessaloniki. I told myself it would feel like an adventure. It felt like grief with a view. Everything reminded me of him, the kind of blue sky he always described. The white buildings, the warm evenings. All of it felt like it was missing something that could not be replaced. On the first night after leaving Athens, I drank more wine than I should have. By the time we stopped in Santorini, I was sitting alone at a bar working through martini after martini, watching the world move around me. That is when I noticed the man. He was sitting across the bar, maybe in his 40s, long straight brown hair, an unkempt beard, not terrible looking, but his eyes were wrong. He was staring at me, not the way a man stares at a woman he finds attractive, not curious or casual or even rude. It was something else entirely. Fixed, unblinking. Like he was looking through me rather than at me. I finished my drink and left quickly. By the next morning I had pushed it to the back of my mind. One strange man in a bar. It happens. Then I got to Mykonos. I was sitting at an outdoor bar a few days later when I looked up and saw him again. Same man. Same long hair, same beard, same clothes. He was standing across the street beneath a streetlight, still, watching. My stomach turned over. I looked away for a moment, telling myself I was imagining the connection. When I looked back, he was gone. And somehow that was worse. I did not walk back to the ship alone that night. I found a couple nearby and made conversation until we were all heading the same direction. The whole time I felt eyes on my back. That night I walked the ship looking for him. Corridor by corridor, bar by bar. I found nothing. The last stop was Thessaloniki, and there he was, standing in the middle of the road, looking directly at me. Something shifted in me that moment. The fear burned off and what replaced it was anger, pure and sudden. I had spent days being afraid of this man and I was tired of it. I walked toward him. I called out. I demanded to know who he was and why he kept appearing wherever I went. The moment he saw me moving toward him, he turned and ran. I chased him around a corner. He was gone. Not gone down the street or into a building, simply gone. Like he had stepped out of the air and back into it. When I returned home, I could not stop thinking about him. So I searched. Police reports. Missing persons. Local news from the regions we had visited. I found a missing persons post with a photo. The man in the photo looked almost identical to the one I had seen. And then I read the name Antonio. I called the police and told them everything. The officer put me on hold. When she came back, her voice had changed. She told me that man had been found dead, a boating accident off the coast of Greece, more than a month before my trip even began. And then she told me the date he died. It was the same date my husband had died, just 2 years apart. I have no explanation for what I saw in those cities. I have no explanation for the man who watched me from across bars and streets and disappeared around corners. I only know what I felt standing in those places, that I was not alone, and that I am never going back to Greece. Story 2, the phone that followed me home. My friends call me Devin. Last summer, a group of us went on a Bahamas cruise to celebrate turning 21. The plan was simple: drink, dance, have fun. The uncomplicated kind of trip that you take when you are young and the world still feels like it bends toward good things. On the first island stop, we were sitting at a beach bar doing what 21-year-olds do on a Bahamas cruise. Laughing too loud, flirting, letting strangers buy us drinks. At one point, I got up to bring drinks back to my friend Messina. I put my phone down on the bar. When we got back to the ship that evening, I reached into my bag. Nothing. My phone was gone. I told myself it was fine. Someone would hand it in. These things get returned all the time. I opened my laptop and checked the Find My Phone location. The dot was not on the island. It was on the ship, close, almost directly on top of me. I went to the Lost and Found. Nobody had handed in anything. So somewhere on this ship, a stranger had my phone. And that stranger was near me. I told myself not to panic. I checked every day. The dot stayed close, barely moving, always within the same radius as wherever I happened to be. 2 days before the cruise ended, I came back to my cabin and found an envelope that had been slid under my door. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. A man wrote that he had found my phone, that he had gone through it, that he had looked at my photos. He wrote that he had fallen in love with me. He knew my name. He had seen my contacts, my messages, my pictures. Everything stored on that phone was now inside his head. I went to ship security. They took down my information and told me they would look into it. The cruise ended. I never heard from them again. I thought it was over. I thought once I was home, the distance would protect me. The night I got back, I checked the location out of habit. The dot was sitting directly on top of my house. I screamed for my father. He came running. He grabbed his hunting rifle and went outside. Moments later, a man jumped our fence and ran down the street. We went outside to see what he had been doing. There was a ladder leaning against the side of the house. Against my bedroom window, the latch had been almost entirely cut through. If I had gone to sleep that night without checking the app, he would have come through that window. And the letter under my door would have been the last warning I ever got. Story 3, the cruise ship bartender. I had always wanted to work on a cruise ship. There is something about it that sounds like freedom. Moving from port to port, meeting people from everywhere, carrying a story home from every city. A few years ago, I made it happen and signed on as a bartender with a cruise line. Most nights were exactly what I had imagined. Travelers celebrating, people letting their guards down, good conversations at the end of long evenings. Then Sebastian started coming in. He appeared at my bar on the second night of the cruise and came back every night after that. He was charming without being loud, polite without being stiff. He had this calm about him that made you want to trust him. We talked. He told me about his wife, how she had cheated on him with his closest friend, how he had found out, how the life he had built had collapsed without warning. It was the kind of story that opens something in you. That makes you want to offer something in return. Kindness, presence, a listening ear. One evening he offered to buy me a drink to thank me for all the conversations. I do not normally accept drinks from passengers. It is an easy rule to follow. That night I broke it. He made the drink himself. Within minutes, the room started moving in a way it should not have. I remember gripping the edge of the bar. And then nothing. When I woke up, I was in my own cabin, tied to my bed. My jewelry was gone, my phone, my suitcase, every item of value I had brought with me. When security reviewed the footage, they discovered that Sebastian had left the ship early at the port in Portugal. He had used a real identity, an identity that after that day simply ceased to exist. I recovered. I went home. I tried to put it behind me and find some version of normal again. Then the envelopes started arriving. Once a month, plain white, no return address. Inside each one was a photograph. Me walking to my car. Me at the mall. Me going about ordinary life in the city where I thought I was safe. Someone was still watching. Someone had been watching this whole time. I moved apartments, changed my routines, rebuilt my life from a different address with a different phone number and a different route to everything. Slowly the photographs stopped coming. I do not know if he got bored. I do not know if he moved on to someone else. I do not know where he is or what name he is using. I only know that I never went back to that ship. And I never will. 3 trips. 3 people who left home expecting to return the same way they left, they did not. The ocean gives a false sense of safety. The distance from ordinary life makes everything feel separate, protected, like the rules that apply on land do not quite reach that far out. But the people who board those ships are the same people who walk your streets. They sit beside you at the bar. They find what you leave behind. They listen to the things you say when you think no one dangerous is listening. And sometimes they follow you home, not just to your port, not just to your city, all the way to your window. So the next time you stand at the railing and watch the shoreline disappear behind you, and you feel that particular lightness that comes with being far from everything familiar, look around you. Because one of the strangers sharing that water with you may have already decided something about you that you have not decided yet. Stay safe out there. And maybe keep your phone a little closer next time. Outro, call to action. And those were 3 disturbing cruise ship horror stories. If you enjoyed tonight's video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Unsolved Darkness for more creepy and mysterious stories every week. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are completely real. Good night.